that really everybody's an investor, right? You got a pile of chips in front of you. It might be time, it might be creativity, it might be money, but you're investing that. You might be investing it in Xbox, you might be investing it in yourself and education, or you might be, actually investing it in a situation where you look at yourself as an investor. So I think a lot of our conversations kind of spun off of that theme.
Well, yeah, and I think that the other mentality that I think you've got the like scrappy, hungry, I'm gonna get this shit done kind of mentality.
That's the bootstrapper, right?
Yeah.
I kind of take the analogy, take the angle, I guess, of if you're gonna get a bunch of pre-revenue financing, you're just working for somebody else, and it depends on what your goals are, obviously. But if you're gonna get a bunch of pre-revenue financing, that's not, in my opinion, a great model. Like I said, it depends on what you're trying to do. But we've always kind of been in there, in the dirt, trying to dig it out, trying to, create something. And if you believe in the idea and you want to create it and you want to build it, make it yours. I talk to a lot of people that give up equity for silly reasons, but make it yours. I think that's another one of the themes that kind of spun through our conversation.
And how do you do that? Like maybe you could tell us your story. That first company. How did you decide you were going to go and do that full time?
Yeah, I think the very first company was three of us, and it's always everything big either happens at Pancake House or Subway, right? And it always happens on either a placemat or a napkin. And it was three guys just back and forth. This is client server days. PCs are just getting exciting. There's no internet, and we're saying, we could really push this inside this company, and the company wasn't excited about that, so maybe we could do our own thing. And finally, we're riding up the elevator, and a guy goes, I'm quitting right now. Either you guys are with me or you're not with me. And so the guy that ended up being my eventual business partner, he kind of gave me a look. He had seven kids at the time. He's got 11 now. But he had 7 kids at the time, and he said, that ain't going to happen. So our third partner actually ended up rolling and doing his own thing, and he's the CEO of Ally Financial now. But Michael and I, kind of from that point forward, knew we were leaving. We knew that we were going to try to take a swing at these big ideas that we had. So the conversation that he and I had was basically, okay, and we had great jobs. Our customers were Toyota, Simon & Schuster in London, Toyota was in Australia, Sega in San Francisco, so we weren't hurting. But I think Matt kind of touched on something that if you're not getting stretched, you pretty much know that it's time to make the move. So he said, okay, why don't you go ahead and quit your job and we'll see how this works. And that's kind of how it started. You got to be able to jump. And one of the things that Matt and I have been talking about is there's kind of like these little tests. There's a book out right now called The Flinch. It's a free book on Amazon. There's these tests there's things that try to get in your way. And if you can get past those things kind of open up for you. And one of the things they recommend in this book is a cold shower. So this is an awesome test, right? If you wake up tomorrow morning and you turn on the shower and you're getting ready to get into that nice warm shower, if you can get into an ice cold shower at 6 in the morning, you're probably ready to make a jump and do something crazy, because that takes an unbelievable amount of discipline, and those are some of the same kind of challenges you're going to face. So we were kind of cracking up about that too.
150 people are going to have upper respiratory infections next week because of you. Okay, so I love that conversation, and I feel like you've just like continually been like, all right, I want to do another thing. I want to do another thing. What do you say to someone who's trying to do that first thing? And obviously, don't flinch is one of them.
Yeah.
But that someone that's on the fence right now, and maybe they're dangling a little toe in the deep end. What do you tell them to do to just plunge?
You gotta flinch forward. It's like a boxer, and this is from the book. When a punch is coming at a boxer, they tend to flinch forward. They don't flinch back. Okay. So, as far as somebody that's looking to get started, I think it's just a matter of believing in what you do. And I think in a lot of jobs, you're just schlepping some paint over the top of something else, right? You're just schlepping. You're not building anything. But when you have that big idea, you suddenly become a builder, right? And you get excited, and Sunday night, you can't wait to get to the office on Monday. And I think that's what everybody wants. And that's kind of the culture that we foster at Progeny. It's one of our 2 core values. One of them is we want to eliminate suffering. or reduce suffering, eliminate disease. And the other thing is we want to create a great place to work where people are excited to come in. I mean, if you're not excited on Sunday night to get into your job and kind of solve some problems, then you probably have some big ideas out there that you might be able to execute.
Well, that's the other thing that I found really inspiring about Progeny is that you guys have literally saved hundreds or maybe even thousands of lives with the software, the health and medical software that you guys have. Can you talk a little bit about your hiring strategy? So I talked to 3 different people tonight before we got up on stage, and they said, I'm looking for my first full-time employee. That's a huge step, and the fact that we've got lots of people in the audience right now that are hiring their first employee, what's kind of your general rule when you're hiring software developers or otherwise?
Okay. Straight on the software side, Joel on software's got a great list of things, and if any of those things are not true, it's a no hire. And we want the best. We want Joe Montana. Flacco is great, but we want Joe Montana. We want the guy that's already made the mistake 5 times so that he won't make the same mistake with us. We're willing to invest in a guy like that. And those are the kind of guys that we attack.
How do you attract those people?
Just a variety of ways. It's everything from Stack Overflow to recruiters to talking with people like you that have a great feel for the community. It'd be great if we had something like an IndyTechJobs.com or something like that where, it wouldn't be Stack Overflow for the nation. It would just be this group of people right here and who's looking, who's interested, and there should be a post from all the big players in town all the time, I think.
Well, and maybe you don't even realize that you do this, but just from talking with you on Monday, I think you've created Progeny into a little bit of a magnet. Rather than, the outreach, we're going to go find these people, and obviously you do that and show people what it's all about, but you've created sort of a culture all on your own at Progeny of kind of getting stuff done and really project management and having these shorter release cycles. Maybe you could just...
Oh, don't get me started. We think that we've found the answer to the problem of why does software take so long to build. You're kind of curled up in a fetus position and you're thinking, why is this taking so long? And even when you're one of the implementers, you're thinking that, why is this taking so long? But the problems that we get into are the same problems the construction industry gets into, right? It's the same problems that the cutting edge project management methodologies are touching on. And we think that we have a combination of that and a combination of just some of the ways that we do things. We think we've solved that problem. And with some of the massive projects that we've undertaken, those methodologies are going to be necessary because it's time to market. It's boom, boom. We sit in front of our customers. The top life science institutions in the world now are in this race, and they're saying we need it now. So you can't have traditional development cycles.
You said you've sort of solved that problem, and what would you say is like the top pro tip from Progeny on how do you solve that problem of building software quickly?
A couple of things. I guess the one top tip is that in reality, if you have a series of events that have to happen, and I'll actually spin that back. The more senior you are, the more likely you are to give a big fat estimate because you've seen everything that can go wrong. So the number one thing is the longer you've been in the software game, the longer it takes you to get things done. Does that make sense? Because you've seen all the problems that could possibly happen, so your estimates get longer and longer, and things that get done fast don't get passed on to later stages, but things that take longer do get passed on. So we've been seeing some of that.
So what's the question you ask your employees?
So what we're talking about now is a mindset, and the mindset changes from like, how long is that going to take? Oh boy, I better double it, to the language changes, and the language becomes, what's the fastest amount of time you could possibly estimate you could get that done, right? What's the fastest amount of time we could finish that audit? Say it's something that's not even technical, and the language changes, and people in your companies, we had a guy just recently that, is that going on next week? We were just laughing about that. Yeah, that's going on next week. We just move and move and move, and the whole culture changes.